Hi, yeah, my name is Sandra de la Loza. I am in unceded Tonga land in northeastern Los Angeles. I'm in a neighborhood called Highland Park. It is a neighborhood that experienced rapid gentrification the last 10 years. And it's actually a few miles from the neighborhood I grew up in, El Sereno, the adjoining neighborhood. My parents moved there when they were displaced with the building of the Golden State Freeway, the 5 freeway in the late 50s. So my work is archival based. I'm a research-based artist. So my work begins with questions about our world that I want to know a little bit more about. And then I create structures for investigation, which include entering archives, interrogating archives, going out and documenting what is not documented, going for walks, getting to know the sites that are connected to the question or area or space that I'm interested in, engaging interlocutors, participating in community organizing efforts. So it's like a myriad of ways of experiencing, questioning, co-learning, getting to know, that I then generate and collect archives, and then I output them in lots of different ways. That I've output them, these investigations, through making my own guerrilla historic plaques and putting them in public space, to creating interventions, to short films and photo-based projects. Work I'm displaying in this exhibit, this To Oblivion, the Speculator's Eden, is part of a larger project called To Oblivion, which began when I was really active in anti-gentrification efforts in the neighborhood that I am living in, Northeast Los Angeles, also the area where I grew up in. And I was aware that, like, as a group, we were doing a lot of research to better understand gentrification, how it was unfolding in Highland Park. A train line had been built maybe 10 years, 15 years before, and definitely it seemed like this new train system was connected to the building of new infrastructure, was connected to this new paradigm shift we call gentrification that I saw unfolding. So I wanted to better understand that. And to do that, I began to investigate transportation history. And I soon learned that in investigating transportation history, that the building of transportation infrastructure in a city like Los Angeles, and probably in like most cities, like, has had huge impacts on the race and space lines in cities. So this work is an outgrowth of that investigation. The Speculator's Eden focuses specifically on Hollywood. It's a site-specific investigation for an artist residency I had at a space in downtown Hollywood called LACE, Los Angeles Contemporary Exhibitions. So for the Speculator's Eden, I did research on the history of Hollywood, and I investigated the first train line that was built, and definitely the building of that train line was embroiled in a power battle between different settler colonialists with different visions. And definitely the building of that train line had a huge impact in terms of the vision that Hollywood was developed into, and today's Hollywood is a kind of outgrowth of that. So the overhead projectors were one element of that larger show, and within the exhibit I had 3 projectors, each contained an archival poem that is a collection of different questions and different issues around the history of development in Hollywood. So I was really interested in the history of transportation in Hollywood, but not only the social repercussions of development, but also the ecological and environmental repercussions of Hollywood. So Hollywood is currently experiencing what I call binge development, just like dozens and dozens of high-rise buildings are being built, which will completely transform the skyline, but have already displaced about 65% of the Latino population in the area. But in investigating the history, I found that this displacement is one of many different displacements, including the original displacement of Tongvan indigenous with the arrival of Spanish colonizers. So I also wanted to understand our displacement across historic continuums. In the building of transportation infrastructure, whole ecologies were paved over, were bulldozed down. And so I also wanted to acknowledge the violences of settler colonialism, capitalist development on the environment and ecosystems. For me as well, the history is a teacher, and it helps us understand our present, and hopefully can help us become agents and more conscious, informed, and strategic actors in addressing the futures that we walk into and finding our agency. But I think also history can also be a reserve. And looking at the ecologies, I went to lots of photo archives, and I found moments when new infrastructure was being built. And in those moments when, say, a train is being built or a freeway is being built, there's these moments, these gaps where what was there before, we have glimpses of. So I was also really interested in these gaps, these moments, these details that explore, that give a sign towards the erasures. So the exhibit and my use of shadow puppets is a way of trying to presence the absences. So what you all see in this installation is a collection of the archive that I collected for the exhibit. The intention of the overhead projectors was then to provide an interactive space for visitors to literally interact with archival material. Folks were invited to chop up, reassemble. I think I'm really interested in archival material and the elasticity of archival material. Definitely entering archives can be very, very painful. Definitely the archive is full of violences, and also the archive itself can be violent. There's questions of like who documents, whose story gets recorded, whose story gets saved and guarded, whose fantasy gets materialized. So the archive does not often include the erasures, the absences, and those who experienced the violences of history. So with that understanding, archival material is something plastic and malleable. I think I'm interested in the potential to play with archival material, and I'm interested in finding strategies to reassemble and disrupt hegemonic narratives and possibly create other narratives. And so that's where the idea of the archival poem comes from, is seeing archival material as material to create our own poems, our own visions, our own narratives, and disrupt hegemonic narratives. In imagining a degentrified future, I turned to the land, and my life's work has really maybe it wasn't planned, but what it has given me is it's helped me develop a deeper relationship with the land, and it's helped me peel layers and layers and layers of history, and learn from the land. And actually, during the quarantine, I've been going for hikes to ecosystems that haven't been paved over, haven't been colonized. And one hike I went to continually was in the surrounding mountains. And I went for the same hike every week for all of spring. And I got to see the mountain bloom. Every week, a different flower, a different plant was flowering. And it was like incredible to build that that intimacy with the mountain. I think of these ecosystems that have survived massive mowing down and concretization and channelization of rivers, yet these ecosystems still persist. So the degentrified future that I imagine is us returning to the land and acknowledging the land as ancestor, as teacher, as resource, and as inspiration for resiliency.